Hello everyone. Today we're speaking with Soren Shade. Okay? Now who is Soren Shade? The most nerdiest drug nerd in all of drug nerdiness known.
Stop.
He knows it too.
Soren's a friend of mine. He's worked with Hamilton Morris for years, and on top of that, owns his own Kratom company that is very sustainable, moral-forward Kratom company. And today we answer a very popular question, which is Kratom an opioid? Because it's talked about a lot. On top of that, we try Narcan so you can see what Narcan looks like and we describe the feelings. And we also try a fresh Kratom leaf in the traditional way that is common in Southeast Asia. So it's a fun day. But let's start with answering the question of, is Kratom an opioid?
So opiates and opioids are two different things. They're often interchangeably used by even people who are very well educated. They get them confused, okay? Opiates generally mean that it is by definition something that is derived in some way from Papaver somniferum, the poppy plant, okay? That can be morphine, which is just extracted, or it can be something like heroin, or oxycodone, which is something that is converted.
Square in a rectangle sort of thing.
Exactly. So when we expand it, opioid is the larger term, and what is the definition of an opioid?
Something that docks with any of the 4 opioid receptors.
Which are?
Mu, kappa, delta, and then the NA. It's a very new opioid receptor. There's not a lot of drugs that target it. We don't really know much about it. It's so rarely talked about, I can't really remember the name of it.
That's totally fine. Is there a receptor that is associated most with the euphoric feeling of opioids?
Mu opioid receptor is definitely the most important of the opioid receptors whenever we think about them generally. That's what does analgesia, that's what does euphoria, that's
really?
What can be, start whatever cellular cascade it is that shuts down breathing if you take too much.
That's what the overdose is going to come from, use from mu. Now, what are these other receptors? Are they just kind of their periphery, or what?
Well, they're remarkably different. The kappa one is a psychedelic receptor. That's what salvinorin A, salvinorin B.
Salvia.
Salvia. That's what salvia targets, is the kappa opioid receptor.
Now, is salvia an opioid?
Salvia is an opioid.
I did not know that. That's actually very cool.
Yeah.
Because by definition, it acts on the opioid receptors. So, to make it simple, is Kratom an opioid?
Kratom is an opioid. It's also a dirty substance. The plant specifically, it's like cannabis. It has many different compounds that are important. But, this might be controversial. I don't really believe in the entourage effect within cannabis.
Okay, why?
Kratom has a much stronger argument for an entourage effect because these alkaloids exist at ratios and concentrations that are high enough for them to be argued to be able to elicit a psychoactive effect, even if there were no other alkaloids. So the sub-alkaloids of kratom, these cornanthidines, these metragenine compounds, they are psychoactive in their own right, and there's enough milligrams of them in the average dose of kratom that you would feel it if there were the other half dozen alkaloids that occur at a high enough ratio to be causing an effect. And then there's metabolomics of kratom alkaloids that yield active metabolites that are more potent.
What's the difference between a metabolomic and a metabolite?
Metabolomics is the term for the system of metabolism, the events that occur within metabolism. So it's sort of like a genre.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As you can see, Soren has a beautiful brain, but he does not dumb shit down. And I'm saying that because for the next 3 minutes, he goes full nerd. And I just wanted to warn you because even I, for 30% of the time, was word? Metabolomics. Yeah, word. Cool. Yeah, I'm on the same page. Ordinarily, I would just cut the section out, but it's the second channel, so if you want this extra information, it's here. And if you don't want it, here is a timestamp to skip ahead. But it's very good information. It's just a lot if you're not interested in the subject.
Okay. And of the opioid effects in kratom, metragenine is the predominant one, and then it's metabolites, 7-hydroxymetragenine and its metabolite. Metragenine, pseudo, and doxyl all have potent mu-opioid agonism, 7-hydroxy and not isorancophyline.
Soren, you stupid idiot. Obviously, it's not pseudo-oxyphylline.
Not isorancophyline.
Jesus.
But pseudo and doxyl are very specific, high potency mu-opioid receptor agonists. Metragenine, of its opioid activity, it is a partial biased opioid agonist. So that's like buprenorphine. You don't really overdose on buprenorphine, which is why it's commonly given to people to use freely available, because you take so much of it and you just hit a ceiling threshold where you just don't see any more increased signs because of just by nature the way it docks with the receptor. It has a self-limiting factor in its effect.
And now what happens when you, so translating that,
let's see how I try to crawl out of this one.
these compounds that you're talking about, it's not like you take more, you're high at this level, right? And you're like, I want to get more high. You take more, you get more high. You take more.
Yeah.
It's like, no, there's a cap.
Well, I actually did kind of good.
Now, what happens when you reach that cap?
That's what a partial agonist is.
That's a partial agonist.
Yeah, you just don't see the continuity of a linear trend in behavioral and physiological responses.
Yeah,
on things that you
got
measure,
it.
Yeah, and so other than mu-opioid agonism, metragenine has delta opioid agonism and it has kappa opioid agonism, and there is speciosilatin, I think, is the one, or it's possibly speciogyn, I often mix these alkaloids. One of them is a antagonist at the opioid receptor as well, but it occurs at a much smaller level, and that's sort of like Suboxone, which is a mix between an agonist and an antagonist. So as you take this opioid, you eventually, it mimics sort of partial agonism, because you're taking an agonist that's at a higher ratio of the antagonist. There's not enough of the antagonist to really dampen substantially the effects of the agonist. You're good, but because the antagonist is more potent in a Suboxone blend, if you take 3 or 4 or 5 of them, eventually the antagonist levels are going to be high enough that it's going to start blocking any further agonism.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a mixed drug. It's a blend.
So wow. Okay, now.
And so Kratom mimics that in a way, or I mean, it came first, but
Yeah, of course.
whatever.
There's a whole conversation of Suboxone being bullshit, kind of terrible morally for a lot of reasons, and then Kratom being
The market of it.
It
like
is.
all
It's
things
the-
with drugs. It's never the drug.
Exactly.
It's the market around it.
And what we're
greater
talking about with
context.
this is basically the Suboxone clinics, and I'm really not that well read on this, but they are kind of a little predatory.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, and they basically kind of prey on people's addictions to get them hooked on their drug, and it's can be cost prohibitive. It can be exhausting for the people to find a clinic near them, schedule it into their day. It's for a lot of reasons. And there's plants like Kratom that are fully legal, for a number of reasons quite safe, that people can actually use as an alternative to Suboxone. Now, we're not saying this is like a advertisement. We do not recommend using these. I mean, I don't. We have different opinions on a lot of things.
I don't recommend you do it for the medical reasons, at least not tea.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. But I will say it is an interesting discussion. I think that it needs to be talked about. That Kratom can be used in a really effective way.
It's a super special plant.
So it really is quite cool. Like, legitimately, it is cool. And I'm going to take another sip. Hope you're sipping at home.
So there's this often, the politics of Kratom is politically denying it's an opioid, it doesn't get, there's just this opioid epidemic, which is a complete and utter bullshit term that uses to, scapegoat drugs for issues that are the result of politicians' idiotic decisions compounding over decades and decades and decades.
Yeah.
Other pharmacology in Kratom and metragenine itself, like, not only does it have this opioid effect, there's also serotonergic activity, there's dopaminergic activity, there's alpha-1 and alpha-2 adrenergic activity.
Okay.
I'm actually really excited to do the Narcanning and cancel the opioid effects, because I am actually interested in
With the other stuff.
giving a more refined view at the effects of Kratom without the opioidergic elements of
That's
it.
interesting.
And just, what is the serotonergic?
Let's wait, because I'm right now, I'm feeling it pretty good. It's not strong, but I'm like, oh, this is nice and relaxing. And the second we hit the Narcan, presumably, we're going to get knocked the fuck out of it.
Like, it's an antagonist to an opioid receptor, so that means, like, all our endorphins are going to be blocked for, like, the next 6 to 8 hours.
Okay.
Like, are we just going to be grumpy little bitches? Like,
Ugh.
because of this, we're just not going to have, like, any of the natural endogenous opioids.
And I can speak this, I think maybe you can also speak to this from personal experience. I've went through opioid withdrawal, I went through amphetamine withdrawal. They suck. There is no question about it. They fucking suck. But it's so less scary than so many people might think, and it's so benign often. So benign. Now, sometimes it's not. They're terrible. I mean, Xanax, GABAergic shit. I mean, Jesus Lord.
Yeah.
Talk about
alcohol.
You can die from that.
Yeah,
you can die.
Shakes, I mean, some of that, maybe this, like, what a fucking phony, but it's like, I've not gone through withdrawal on drugs. I'm just, like, so, obsessively, like, pattern oriented in my drug use. I don't use it habitually, but like whenever I go to use a drug, it's often like a 24 hours in advance to sort of have a game plan for how that day's going to go and what a dose I'm going to use and if I'm going to redose and what I'm going to eat that day and what I'm going to eat before it. All that. That's sort of like
that's the thing also about being like a drug nerd is that, you know, when we hang out with normies, the regs that do drugs, a lot of people have a lot of natural trust in, like, someone's at a club says, oh my god, I got some M, you want to do some M, and they'll just do it, or some K, or they'll do it, right? I've never done that, and I never will, ever. For my entire life, I'm getting a milligram scale out, I'm getting some reagent tests out if I don't know the source, and I'm testing it. Now, we're weird, and every time I've done that, everyone looks at me like I'm the lame-o, but guess what?
It makes the drug experience so much better because the paranoia element of it is just like dramatically reduced. You're never like, am I dying? It's like,
exactly.
no
you're
one's
not.
died on 35 milligrams of this before.
Exactly.
Like
Okay, I want to ask some nerdy questions.
Yeah, Meta, how you in your like biggest video were like, I'm like the new Hamilton Morris or like the less cool, I don't know what it was you said.
The discount Hamilton Morris.
You hung out with him a decent amount with us this week.
I did.
How was that?
Meeting Hamilton Morris was kind of awesome. I have went through this a few times. I've been very fortunate where you have someone you admire for years, whether on social media, whatever, their music, and you get to meet them. And every single time, for me personally, every single time I've ever met someone, how they are on the camera is exactly how they are in real life. People just tend to be authentic. And Hamilton is exactly, and it is, he's truly, what was shocking to me is that he's truly passionate about drugs in a way that I don't even think that I can remotely relate to.
Oh, really?
No!
I don't know, I see a little bit of it in you.
I mean, we all three of us have that same, like, interest in it. The one other thing that I'm really interested in is race and ethnicity, culture stuff, right? Mm-hmm. It's the exact same thing as drugs because, one, it's something you're not socially supposed to talk about. People get really uncomfortable about it. People have strong opinions about it. People are very uneducated about it. But through understanding them, through understanding why someone might speak this language, why does it sound similar to this one? Why do they look like this? Why do they think they look like this? That is like an avenue to understand people better. And I think for me personally, and I've talked about it a couple times, diagnosed with the TIS, it was a way when I was younger to understand people because I never did. I couldn't get why people would laugh at certain things that I said or look at me in a certain way and think that I'm weird or make statements like, oh, you're so you're just so you. It made me so uncomfortable. And so my
exact same experience.
Exactly. Exactly.
Not that I have.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
The sectionality that drugs have with almost everything else is one of the reasons why I love it so much.
Yep.
Like, it's just, drugs are like a profoundly primitive element of the human condition.
Why does grapefruit make drugs so dangerous?
Bro, I hate the framing of that question.
I know you do.
I hate that framing of the question.
I know.
It doesn't necessarily make drugs dangerous. It can make them less predictable.
No, hold on. Let's back it up for people. And I actually don't know anything about this. I just know that from research, certain drugs, when you drink grape juice with it, certain drugs...
Grapefruit.
What did I say?
Grape.
Yeah, grapefruit. And it can actually change how they affect your body pretty substantially. Like, not even like subtle, like indica sativa, like, oh my god, it's more heady. It's like, oh no, I could overdose maybe if I did this grapefruit juice, correct? Yeah.
Liver toxicity, increased blood pressure, it all depends on the class of the drug. Like 70% of the things that we put into our body are broken down from a set of genes that are coded by cytochrome P450, which includes a bunch of CYP genes.
Wait, hold on, you're losing me. Yeah. Dumb it down.
There are a bunch of enzymes that remove drugs from our body that are classified broadly as sip P450.
Okay.
So, guy, you know how ayahuasca works.
Like a...
Nope, but I googled the grapefruit question, and essentially when someone's sippy grapefruit juice and takey drugs, grapefruit juice make your body no breakdown drugs, so you have more drugs in your body. I don't think he's used to talking to stupid people. I think I might be his first stupid.
Do you know, like, what's the craziest GMC shit they used to sell?
Oh, yeah, that's a cool question.
GMC, by the way, used to be... Talk about a meth lab. They had it all. They had the...
DMAA.
Which is...
It's essentially Adderall. It's just a little less potent. You need to take like 40 milligrams for like a 10 to 15 milligram Adderall experience. But they used to put it in pre-workouts, and it was just like amphetamine.
Just straight up, just fucking...
Yeah.
Soren actually has a real kratom tree growing. It's gonna die any day now, but...
No, we're keeping it alive. It does not like Colorado very much. It's very different from...
Kratom trees are actually very, very, very difficult to grow, from my understanding. Like, they're very particular.
In West Virginia, they were like super easy. We were in a valley, the Ohio River Valley. It filled up with fog every morning. So it was like 100% humidity.
Does it freeze during the night?
Yes.
Yeah, so that kills them.
Not in the nights. In the summertime, it doesn't. Not in the nights. But in the wintertime, you have to take them in because, yeah, anything below like 50 they don't really love, and anything below 32 generally kills them.
This is a kratom tree.
I would offer you to chew one of the leaves, but they have some sort of like fungal infection.
And, brother, I'll do it.
I don't. I really. It's
He's literally so safe.
We can wash it. We can wash it with a little bit of soap.
Oh.
And then dry it off, and then you can have more.
Yay! I'm a bad influence. In one of my earlier videos with Beetle Nut, I ate hydrangea leaves. But you know how I was like, oh, I just found this leaf. It's a hydrangea leaf. Yeah. Hydrangea has cyanide in it, so that was a little stupid, but I was fine. Have you ever tried coca leaf?
Yeah, I did Mambe at the Dr. Bronner's party before I made it to the psychedelic sex party that Meta and I went to the other night.
Yeah,
last night.
Dude, it was so much sex and so much. Yeah, totally. It wasn't just a whole bunch of nerds just awkwardly sitting around talking.
And y'all are gonna be like, that's the saddest fucking kratom leaf I've ever seen. I agree. We are nurturing this gal. She is she's struggling out here in Colorado. She's not loving it. Which is why like 99% of all kratom in the United States comes from Indonesia. It's just prime growing territory, and it grows prolifically out there. You don't need to pull the stem out. There's alkaloids in the stem. But the reason people do this is because in Thailand, Indonesia, when you're chewing these things, you're chewing up like around 20 a day sometimes, just like constantly every like 40 minutes. You just pick one off the tree and chew it. So you take this, pretty much a quid, and you'll just put it in your cheek, sort of like chew on it a little bit and let it in your cheek, and sort of just kind of like slowly for the next like 2 minutes, like expressing saliva in and out of it, and just letting it coat it.
Okay, you're getting like Beetle Nut.
Yeah, you're getting it through your mucomembrane.
Cheers.
It's a treat, chewing kratom leaves.
It is. It's a special. Oh, that's disgusting.
The effects are lovely, though. I find it to be much more. It gives you energy. Is what you're allowed to say. You can't say stimulating if you're selling kratom. But I don't sell fresh leaves, and I find the fresh leaves to be stimulating.
Yeah, stimulating. That's what I'm getting right now. It tastes bad. It tastes very bad. It's bitter as shit. Maybe a little sour, like a weird, but it's gross. This is
And you don't swallow. You don't want to macerate it.
Oh yeah, totally.
You just sort of, Sorry.
I chewed it.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, you've got like chewed up. The particles everywhere.
We had a few cups of the tea, so nothing crazy strong, but I feel very kratomy, actually kind of feel a little bit energized right now. My body is very relaxed. I can definitely feel like an opioid effect, just with like a warm blanket type of hug. That's kind of how I describe it.
It's feeling high.
I'm feeling a little high, but it's not super strong. You know, obviously, most people would not be able to see much of a difference in my behavior. So, this is Narcan, or naloxone.
Have you ever administered naloxone before?
I have not. Have you?
I have not.
Oh. So this is the stuff that when you see someone doing the fentanyl or whatever.
Fentfold.
Fentfold, my bad. That's what the kids are saying it. The fentfold. When someone is overdosing, right? So when their respiratory system is super, what's the term? Sedated?
Depressed.
Depressed, that's the term. Depressed. How opioid overdose can kill people.
It essentially mimics everything that happens when you fall asleep.
Got it. Okay.
But it can just go
Just keeps
further,
going.
like
Yeah.
the
You're just
linearity.
so relaxed,
Yeah.
and you get so relaxed. And so what this will do is, it'll pretty much instantly, if someone's like about to die because they've taken too much, they've overdosed or whatever, this will save their life. Everyone should have these. These are amazing. If you see someone,
Good to just have these around for safety. In the same way, if you're using psychedelics, maybe have an emergency benzo or antipsychotic on hand to abort it if for some reason things
that's
go
a
crazy.
trip killer, and definitely recently had to use one of those because
How recently, Meta? Couple hours.
Yeah. So the active chemical in this is naloxone. Okay. Now, what does naloxone do to save someone's life?
It is an opioid antagonist that has a higher affinity for the mu opioid receptor.
The stuff that gets the receptor that gets you high. Remember?
Yeah, than a lot of common opioid drugs. Things like carfentanil or really strong fentanyl analog habits. You might need a couple shots.
Really?
Naloxone. All right. I'm looking. There was no instructions for like taking off a cap or anything. Just put in the nose and press.
Okay.
It seems like there's not a hole up there, but there is a hole. There's a little baby hole.
Okay.
Okay. So we're just feeling.
How are you feeling?
I feel minor numbness within me, which I generally don't find to be all that pleasant.
You don't like the opioid feel?
I really don't like opioid feels because it's like for me the opioid feeling is felt like in my stomach as like a precursor to nausea.
That is,
It's
I mean,
like
opioids,
psychology.
I'm a huge opioid person, but one of the major cruxes of the high, the nausea just sucks. I'm nauseous right now.
I'm a bitch when it comes to nausea. Like
Yeah.
I just
Yeah. Different strokes for different folks.
nuance notice to this. There is probably never going to be a situation in which Narcan is necessary to administer someone who's consumed Kratom.
Yes.
When there are toxic effects from Kratom, it often presents itself in a manner that is resembling of serotonin toxicity some way. So seizing, things like
Really?
that.
That's kind of when
Yeah.
you go too much kratom, that's where you can kind of get more serotonin.
Generally it looks like serotonin toxicity.
That's very interesting.
It's not cool.
Yeah. So, anyways, we have it. Let's try it. Cheers. That's not what I expected.
That was like a shotgun. That just went
Yeah, that
so
went
quick.
right
It
up.
just- right up there.
Wow, it just like went. That was easy. Wow.
Oh my lord. The nausea in my stomach just.
I'm still feeling. Oh my god! Now it's my high is going away. I can literally feel it going away.
That's fascinating.
Oh my god! I'm like sober.
A lot of what I was feeling sort of just evaporated. The nausea is the most dominant thing for me that just disappeared. Oh, am I a little achy? Yeah, a little. That was interesting.
That's cool.
I've never played around with antagonists before.
This is cool. It literally just like.
This is some drug nerd shit right here because it's like the exact opposite of the reason why people use
Yeah,
drugs.
exactly.
It's just curiosity. Fascinating. This is like decaf kratom.
It is. Okay, we go now. Bye bye.
It's fun.
That was fun indeed.
Bye.